Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. Good morning, everybody. Hope you've had a chance to read those documents and absorb the new information relating to the Delphi case. Curious to know where you guys stand, if it changes anything as far as what you thought the outcome might be. Does this make Richard Allen appear as though he may be a patsy, a fall guy? Those are some of the things I'm hearing. I'm hearing a lot of I told you so. Every time we hear something new, you have the group of I told you so's. Now, when you have a group of I told you so's, you'll notice the one thing they have in common. They're the laziest of the sleuths, the online armchair detectives. They are the laziest. They're the checker players of the game. The only information they consider is what they can see with their naked eye, everything on the surface. And that's why they blame the family, because of course the family is going to be around most of the victims, and that goes for many cases. Okay, so the family's right there on the surface. Rumors, right there on the surface. Speculation, right there on the surface. And then all the public information, right? They don't even think to peel those layers back. Some do. They'll go to the court records. That's one layer beneath. Let's go to the court records, actual sources, local contacts, family members of the victims, family of actual investigators. And sometimes they're content right there. Oh, I got all these sources. I'm talking to the family. I've peeled back these layers. The truth is here somewhere, but they don't realize they got all these other layers that need to be continued to be pulled back. Actual knowledge of the crime scene is one thing we've just received a day ago. Speaking with actual government employees who have access to the file, first responders, law enforcement, citizens, things like that. And then you need to pull that layer back. And then you have information that you'll never have access to, like the investigation itself, firsthand knowledge from through the eyes of the perp, what's going on in the killer's head. So a lot of these I told you so are the same people who work with only rumors, speculation, and public information that's released. They don't pull back any of those layers. So I think it's important that not to let new information distract you from the facts. Everything presented in this case so far from both sides has some truth to it, right? So it's our job to use critical thinking and God's given discernment and gut instincts to help weed out that truth. What is up, Frank Meister from True Crime Talk with Frank Meister? Judy B says, let's remember that some of the country's best criminal profilers have reviewed the crime scene details. That's actually not true, Judy. Not to call you out or anything, but we've heard directly from John Douglas, and he says he wishes he had access. That's the only way he's going to be able to create an accurate profile. And he named all the things that he wished he had: crime scene photos, autopsy, manner of death. He said with that information, he could create a profile. And he actually believed that they should have released that information a long time ago. But I actually think I know. Excuse me, guys. I actually think I know why they didn't release a lot of this information. Hold on, I'm just reading a quick email. Okay. Kind of lost track of where I was going with that. Thank you, Cindy, for sponsoring today's live stream. Getting bombarded with information. Sorry, guys. A little distracted. Yeah, Judy, they didn't have access. We're barely being given that information now. And what really sucks for investigators, it's good for the public, but it's not good for the investigation. It's good for those who want the information and think that they can help with that information. But the investigators right now are very frantic because they could have been all this effort to conceal, all this effort to keep things hidden, to keep information from certain people because only the killer would know, right? You hold your cards close. We always assumed, oh, that was the 40 caliber shell, this and that. No, they were holding their 4 aces, and we were, seeing some queens and some kings. So now anybody who was involved in this crime can begin to start hiding evidence, burning clothes, maybe even killing witnesses, people that might know. So yeah, this is bad. This is what Nicholas McClelland, I believe, was saying. Hey, we believe others are involved. We got this guy over here for kidnapping. We know he's the guy on the bridge. There's no DNA tying him to this over here. But because people are talking about the 40 caliber and we haven't released that to the public, kind of forcing our hand. Remember, it's a fact that the word tentacles was used by Doug Carter. So we hear about the Anthony Shots stuff. We hear about Richard Allen. And then now we have the new information that's actually old information, right? But there's a lot of new parts to it. This Patrick Westfall character, this person named Elvis Fields, I've never heard of those names. Those names were provided in the document released by Richard Allen's defense. So I don't think they're trying to get that search warrant thrown out. I'm going to come out and tell you what I think is what their strategy is. Okay. So this is, I think what they have here is a plea deal. This is a plea deal disguised as a suppression hearing. Now they're using a suppression hearing to divulge some of Richard Allen's paranoias. They talk about these patches on the correction officers' uniforms. Well, there's a lot of Odinism in Indiana, Kentucky, and those, a lot of people, that's their religion. And as an American, that's your religious right. Just like Satanism is. A lot of those people, they're just rebellious and they're using their freedoms to express themselves. Not all of them want to go do a sacrificial killing or things like that. Not everybody is evil. But in every organization, I call it the 1 out of 10 rule. 1 out of 10 is a bad apple. So all that new information about the crime scene, to me, is just what Nicholas McClelland wished he could have kept hidden, knowing damn well that he couldn't, but he did his best efforts. But now it's all out there. And anybody who was involved, who knows? Maybe they're running now. This doesn't exclude Richard Allen from anything. And that's why I believe this is just a disguised plea. This is the groundwork for a plea deal. Let me go ahead and show you some of my clients' fears. some things that you can use to make him happy, protect his wife, right? So these individuals can be threatening him and him still be involved. And him seeing those patches could have very well have just been his paranoia. Like, oh my God, they're everywhere. They really are everywhere. And then he freaks out about it. It was at the defense stated themselves. It was right around the time he was making those statements that it was the same time his mental health was declining. So in sets the paranoia, him wanting to tell the truth, feeling like he can't because of what might have happened at the crime scene. We always talk about, well, how the hell did his 40 caliber unspent bullet end up at the crime scene? What did I tell you is a good possibility? Him struggling with another assailant. The other, he brings them down there for whatever reason, maybe thinking they're going to just assault them, maybe terrorize them. He had no idea the brutality he was going to see, possibly. So he's forced or, agrees. My job is just to lure them down here. Those other people, it seems like they had something ready, right? Now that we know what was going on at that crime scene, they may have actually hung them up and drained their blood. We also know that another person that I spoke to personally that was on the trails that day threatened to cut a woman's throat and to drink her blood. Hey, Matt Sullivan. Matt Sullivan knows who I'm referring to. He also said he will gut them like a pig. I will gut you like a pig, slit your throat, and drink your blood. And this is coming from a person who was on the trails between 3 and 4 o'clock. Okay. And if the signatures and the staging and the physical act of murder was not done by Richard Allen, does that need to be divulged to the court? It has nothing to do with his crime. His crime is kidnapping that led to a murder. His crime is not physically committing murder, posing, staging of the crime scene. Maybe he's not being accused of all of that. So would they need to legally provide that information to the defense? So if anybody knows the answer to that, let me know. A little bit curious. Law enforcement was adamant that BG participated in the murders. Yeah, he kidnapped them. The murders wouldn't have happened if he wouldn't have done what he did. If he wouldn't have abducted those poor girls from that bridge that day, they would still be alive. Now, why did they need Richard Allen to do it? Well, maybe they didn't recognize him. Just get him down there. We're not going to hurt him. Just get him down the bridge. Get him down underneath here, and we're not going to hurt him, I promise. So when he sees that they are harming them and what they actually plan to do, he gets into a struggle, gets his ass kicked potentially. One of the killers takes his weapon from Richard Allen, removes the magazine, ejects the bullet that's in the chamber, not thinking about it. That bullet goes flying right there in the smack dab in the middle of the crime scene. To me, that would explain the only reason why you would do that. Because if you're doing it for intimidation, you're going to notice that shell come flying up. You're going to be like, "Man, I need to get that." But if you were just in a struggle, somebody took your weapon and they ejected it, still making eye contact with you, seems more likely they would miss it. So to me, all of this information just kind of really tells the rest of the story. Now, they're going to have to prove. Let's see what I have here. If you guys are wondering what this image is here, this is actually from one of the people they named in the memorandum that Richard Allen's defense put out. His name was Brad Holder. He says he was innocent, that he has an alibi, and I believe that some online sleuths have proved that he has an alibi. But I don't know. Like I said, this is being provided by Richard Allen's defense team. And they have some strong, I don't know if you would call it evidence. I mean, this is an image, a painting done by Mr. Holder 1 year, almost to the day, after the murders. Okay. And we know that there was no blood, because if you're going to drain somebody, everybody knows that is a hunter, or if you've ever seen a butcher, this is what they're going to do first. All the blood comes rushing down and they collected it. The question is, what the hell did they do with that? Where is that? Who has that? Somebody has that. They're not going to get rid of that. And it could be one of these gentlemen, and they're now hiding those pieces of evidence. That's the only thing that could explain why there was no blood. Once they did that, they probably just cut the line and put the clothes back on. And for all we know, Richard Allen is already being told to shut his mouth, being threatened. There was some information within the new documents, or the memorandum. I wouldn't even call them documents. This is really the defense strategy. You know, this is their conspiracy theory. But they got a lot of ammunition here. This is very telling, because when they describe the crime scene, they say it's very possible that if not one, but both could have been tied up this very way. It's the only way they can explain no blood being found on the evidence, on the clothes, at the crime scene. And this here is also part of a satanic ritual. You guys remember Charles Manson and Sharon Tate? This is how she was murdered. This is exactly what that crime scene looked like. So see how the leg is bent? Yeah, that's very ritualistic. But I think the most telling part would be the symbol here. 1 year after the murders, he's painting this. And we now know that this is the symbol, or they believe it to be this symbol, a ruin, similar to the letter F. Kind of see how the lines are at a downward angle. He has that in red at the bottom of this painting. And when he took this photo, it was about 2 to 3 days after the anniversary. So with that being said, he could have started this painting on the anniversary. So that's extremely telling. Yep, exactly. And it comes from that. Freckle Joy makes a good point. That looks like the Hangman Tarot card. And I shared that in the Discord. Was that tarot card? Because that's exactly what it represents. True Crime Housewife, I'm glad they brought some of this to the public's eye. Something is going on in that county. And I mean the evil practices. Yes, only the killer would know. Well, And something that probably ties us to the Flora case is your gut instincts. You know, feeling like there's a connection between Flora and Delphi, knowing the process of a killer, gateway crimes. First it's arson, and then it's something more brutal. So, in this memorandum, the defense is trying to tie this Patrick Westfall character, not my words, right? We're not putting people on blast here. This is important information. If we're going to get the truth out here, I guess now's the time, right? But that's not going to be on the defense team's terms. It's going to be on the terms of the truth. So and I proved this. I went and looked it up myself. This gentleman lived up the street from Flora in October of 2016. So I found that very interesting. And we're going to look at some documents right here. And the defense is trying to paint him as a violent racist. Okay, so here's one of the documents here. 2019, Unified Command learned that in a totally different conversation with his ex-wife, Brad Holder pointed the finger away from himself and directed it directly at Patrick Westfall as being the person actually responsible for the murders of Abby and Libby. So, I mean, these are bold statements. They better have some proof if they're going to be throwing this guy's name out there and this Brad Holder. So they seem pretty convinced. And that also makes me think if Brad Holder's distancing himself from Mr. Westfall, that could be, he could have been in shock, just like Richard Allen was. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, I can't believe you're doing this. Like, am I really seeing this right now? And then that's when the threats come. I'll kill you. I'll kill your family. Brad Holder pointed the finger away from himself and directly at Patrick Westfall as being the person actually responsible for the murders of Abby and Libby. According to police reports, Brad Holder told his ex-wife that Westfall and his people killed Abby Williams and Liberty German because one of their mothers was mixing with other outside the mother's race. So there's the motivation that would tie both crimes together. Racially motivated. And the ritual was just like, might as well, we have our victim. That's how we're going to do it. We're going to accomplish both things. Westfall and his people killed Abigail Williams and Liberty German because of their mother was mixing with other people outside the mother's race. Furthermore, Unified Command was aware that Brad Holder had told Amber that I can only protect you so much if you keep asking questions. Brad Holder further told his ex-wife, Amber, that Patrick Westfall had many people backing him up, and that Westfall also had powerful friends. Could that explain the lost tip? Being a leader in the Department of Natural Resources, I think you could consider that a powerful friend, especially when he's the lead to anybody that goes missing in the woods, right? Sees through. Hello. Prosecution has to blow this out of the water now. It's all out there now. Time to play your hand. They have no hand. The defense called because they need help. This is not them fighting against the prosecution. This is a veiled olive branch, I guess. They're reaching out. Help us. Things that Richard Allen would not talk to the cops about, he's going to talk to his defense about. This is a veiled plea, the groundwork for a plea deal. Thanks, Ruckus. Yeah, you guys need to get those likes up. Yeah, there's nothing to blow out of the water. Now it's in the hands of the experts, in my opinion. You're going to see something very similar to the West Memphis Three, you know, experts on occultism, Odinism, Satanism. They're going to try to convince a jury what those symbols are and what the signatures are. And we all know damn well the defense are not experts on crime scene and occultism and Odinism, right? So we're just hearing it from them. They're not experts on that. And then they mentioned a guy by the name of Elvis Fields. So he's quoted as saying, if his spit is found on one of the girls, but he could explain it away, would he still be in trouble? So that's something that's quoted in these documents as well. What's up, GP? Good to see you, V. Jill. Okay, and this is the other gentleman that's mentioned. And this is interesting here. Okay, let's see. Well, actually, let me catch up on the chat real quick. Then where are the arrests? Should Richard Allen's attorneys just sit on this info while their client is slowly dying? No, they're trying to make a deal. So I'm saying I'm not mad at them for releasing it. I'm just telling you guys to use your own filter. Just because they're presenting it doesn't mean all this information is accurate or true or factual. We need to focus on the facts. And we can assume that the information that they're providing about the crime scene is factual information. Now, all these accusations against these people, I'm not leaning on that too much. I'm trying to focus in on the facts of it all. Mother of Dragons, what's up? Later, Ruckus. Thanks for stopping by. True crime housewife. You have a great point there, Sleuth. I do believe his family has been threatened, which is why he got so sick and thin. Yeah, now imagine if you know who committed this murder, right? You know, and you now know how dangerous they are. You know, if they're threatening to kill your daughter, you know. And that might explain why Richard Allen doesn't have anything tying him to that Odinism or whatever. I'm sure he got rid of all that shit. Especially if he sees somebody leaving symbols at a crime scene. Or who knows, maybe he was getting initiated. I'm just saying this doesn't eliminate Richard Allen from anything. Freckled says Patrick Westfall is 6'6". Someone had to have seen him if he was there. I don't think so. There's a number of houses he could have parked at, back roads. There's roads into those woods that you never even probably even have seen yet. Yeah, they could have parked, somewhere near the Wilson Bridge. They could have used Ron Logan's property. They could have been parked at the cemetery already. Like, there's a million places they can park that don't involve the Mears lot and the trailhead. Also, if you have somebody, maybe you only have one vehicle. We know from the Hoosier Harvest store, they believe Richard Allen's vehicle, if that's his car, caught on camera, right? We haven't seen the video, but they say they can see a vehicle they believe is his coming from the direction of Ron Logan's property to go park at the CPS building. So that's also coming from the cemetery. So he could have went up the back way, dropped those people off, parked. He could have parked at this. We don't know. He could have been parked at the cemetery since early in the morning, got out of the car, prepped the crime scene, and then when they got the call from the girls or they see that, the Snapchat, hey, we're going to the bridge, that's when Richard Allen drives to the CPS building. He could have been there the whole time. So as soon as they get the alert, okay, they're coming right at 1:30. That's when Richard Allen went and parked at 1:30. So for all we know, there's a group of guys already down at the crime scene, including Richard Allen. Why would he come? If he was leaving his home, there's no reason he would be coming from the direction of Ron Logan's home or the cemetery. He would have come the other way and parked at the CPS building and never have been seen on that video. But that's not what happened. He came from the cemetery direction. We all know the closest point to the crime scene is the cemetery parking. We can all agree on that. From the beginning, they went through they most likely went through the cemetery. It makes sense. We've had 100 YouTubers go down there and walk from the crime scene to the cemetery. It's like a 4-minute walk. Thank you, V. Hello, Angela Pepper. One of the names mentioned has an open Facebook page. I can see connection with a pagan group. Yeah, we're going to show some images from that Facebook. Anna says, I don't understand how there is a gag order. The crime scene details have been carefully withheld, and all of a sudden, everything is spewed to the public. Yeah, this is what Nicholas McClelland wanted to keep hidden. Remember, from the beginning, the day after they arrested Richard Allen, or when they gave that press conference, they said, we believe other people are involved. We're keeping this information quiet because of witnesses. And he wasn't referring to the witnesses that were in the probable cause affidavit. He's talking about all these other witnesses, including this person that was mentioned in the memorandum. So they have no interest in getting that search warrant thrown out, in my opinion. This is a veiled plea agreement. This is the groundwork here. They're letting him know that that Richard Allen is afraid. He's not going to talk until he's being protected and his family's being protected, which is obvious that they're not. So he will not talk. And it's almost like the defense seems like they're being forced to do these kinds of things. But the prosecution and investigators are walking a very fine line, in my opinion, because they need to make the arrest of these violent people, knowing that Richard Allen is the kidnapper and there's much more violent people than him still walking free. Potentially, right? They need to protect that information. Well, now it's all out there. Everything's out there. The killers, if there's other killers involved, they're watching. They're watching the news. They're reading these documents. The trophies are probably gone. They're getting rid of any sign that they're associated to any of the other killers. For all we know, there was a large group down there. Matt says may become an Alfred plea. I don't know if it's going to go that far. I think this is going to be a plea, and that if he's given what he needs, I think Richard Allen will plead guilty. Thanks, Shay. I missed all of this new news. Disaster strikes on the home front. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hang in there. Yeah, that's the word. Bastardized. It's common to see bastardization of religion from Christianity to Satanism. It's all interpretation. Yeah, and it's really up to the person, the individual, right? He can tie certain things in, and maybe a lot of Satanism comes from old pagan rituals. So really Satanism might just be paganism, right? Just another form of that, not vice versa. Okay, let's read this here. Shockingly, on August 10th, 2023, Deposition Unified Command member Jerry Holman claimed that he did not even know who Johnny Messer was, nor what the evidence showed of Messer's possible role in the murders of Abby and Libby. It is additionally infuriating that Johnny Messer was cleared as a suspect in the murders when considering these facts. Johnny's ex girlfriend, Taylor Hornaday, told police that Johnny Messer and Patrick Westfall were like brothers. She also told police that she had allowed Johnny to borrow her car on or around Valentine's Day 2017, and that Johnny drove her car up there. I'm assuming that's Delphi, up to Delphi, to hang with his Vinlander friends. When he turned her vehicle, when he returned her vehicle, it had dried blood over one side of it. Johnny Messer refused to discuss the details of how the blood got there. Johnny Messer's ex girlfriend further stated that it took her several car washes to finally remove the blood. So I'm thinking, whatever, if he's involved and this is somehow related, which it seems like it very likely could be, and it seems like they could easily go test that vehicle again. Hopefully, they're doing that now, I'm assuming. But he could have had whatever they contained all that blood in sitting in that seat, or his clothing, right? Sitting in that seat. But for it to be all over the place, I'm wondering if it was in some kind of a container. Messer has claimed that he had never, not once in his life, been to Delphi, home of his brother, Patrick Westfall, and near the home of his other Odinite brother, Brad Holder. So, I mean, they are really throwing these guys under the bus. What's up, Redfoot? In my opinion, Richard Allen had two other dudes stage that scene to make it look like a sacrifice as a plan B if the proactive approach to conservation officer didn't work. Not sure. I never really felt like Richard Allen was the Mr. Big in all of this. You know what I mean? I always got more of a recruited vibe. Maybe even offered some money. Anna says, I think the court would be pissed off with all the details released yesterday. I don't know why the court would be pissed. Yeah says, without the material they obtained with the bogus search warrant, they have no case. Yeah, and I don't believe that they ever thought they would get that thrown out. I believe that they know that their client is responsible, and the strategy is to begin work on a plea deal. They need to slowly release information from that Richard Allen has provided to them in a very strategic manner, right? So we now know that he's afraid of these Odinites. He's afraid that they're going to kill his family. So by them releasing the information the way that they do, they're letting the other side know, the prosecution know, these are the fears of my client. If you want any answers, you have to address these fears. Because if Richard Allen's real story is, hey, yeah, I was planning to kidnap them. I thought we were going to do this, this, and that. I never thought we were going to hurt them. I was convinced that we needed these people to do some kind of ritual, but then we were going to let them go. We all had our faces covered. It wasn't no big deal. And then this guy freaked out. He went crazy. I tried to stop him. He took my gun. Because we're kind of getting the same thing according to this memorandum about Brad Holder. He's basically like warning people, like, you need to stay away from this guy. He's freaking crazy. I think it even mentioned somewhere after February 2017, he stopped talking about him on his Facebook, wasn't communicating about him. And according to this, some witnesses say that he accused this Westfall character. So to me, none of this information is excluding anybody. This to me doesn't even exclude the whole Anthony Schatz stuff. Doesn't even exclude some of the other people that we've mentioned as well. Yeah, I don't think it was bogus. I think the prosecution, I don't think they believe it's bogus either. Like I'm telling you, I believe they're using this as a way to kind of reach out to the prosecution. Like, we need your help. He's not going to talk. Because he's not acting like an innocent person. He's acting like a guilty person who's afraid. And that could be another reason why he has support from his wife. We went over these theories. Remember a long time ago when he first got arrested, said that he could have come clean to his wife, saying, hey, look, I was down there. I was responsible, but this is what happened. It wasn't my fault. I tried to stop it. But you can't say anything because these are very dangerous people and they will kill you. They will kill all of us. And therefore, never came forward. Anna says, my friend was a prison guard. Uniforms are severely restricted. Don't want a guard flashing gang signs. Sons of Odin equals. Yeah, but it wasn't a gang sign. It was an Odinism symbol. Did you see it? It was a patch that just had those triangles that go through. That's not a gang sign. That's like their symbol for people that actually practice that religion. I don't think there was any gang affiliated patches or anything like that. Yeah. Kelly says, why are we so against finding the truth wherever it might be? Who's against finding the truth? The point is, you don't want to be pulled left, right. Remember? They dropped the Anthony Shots thing. Oh, I knew it. Oh, blah, blah. Everybody gets dragged over here. I knew it. I told you guys. New Ron Logan warrant comes out. Oh, get dragged all the way back over here. Oh, see, I told you guys. I know I was confused here, but remember back then I talked about Ron Logan? Okay. So now what's happening? Defense drops a memorandum and everybody is dragged right back on over here in this direction. That's why you have to be steady. You got to, while everybody's being dragged around, you have to stay patient, look at the facts, and use critical thinking. You can't let your emotions or weird conspiracy theories drag you down this path. So, like I said, I believe there's a little bit of truth to all of this. The Anthony Schott stuff, maybe even the Ron Logan stuff, most definitely the Richard Allen stuff, and even some of this new information. Yeah, could explain why Logan's land was chosen. And if they're using power tools, they could have been friends with Ron Logan. He did go and spend a bunch of money. So if somebody like him, they could have been videotaping this for all we know. They could be making some money at the same time. So if you got somebody like a Ron Logan, and I'm not saying he's involved, I'm just saying it is a fact that that day he spent a large amount of money on fish. You know, doesn't mean he needs to know why. Hey man, I'll give you $500 if you'll let me use your land and go somewhere. Sure. Yeah, I think all that's going to be smashed. They want to make it appear as though he's in danger. They got to get him out of there. The Odinites have taken over the prison. The warden is the leader of the Odinites. No. Come on, guys. You think if the warden saw his employees wearing gang patches, he's going to allow that? We have a freedom of religion in this country. What's up, lesbian? Why redress the girls at all, especially switching the clothing? Why do this? It would have taken forever with wet clothing. I think maybe, I'm not sure. I'm kind of stuck on that as well. And they went through a lot of effort also. But I'm wondering, it says that one of the victims was alive longer than the other. So maybe she dressed herself. But then again, wouldn't there be blood everywhere? So she would have had to have been dressed. Why do that? The one thing that comes to mind, and this is all hypothetical with these names being thrown around, we don't know if the defense can prove any of this information. We haven't really seen anything that they have. This is all coming from this memorandum. But if, let's say, a Brad Holder is involved, his son has a relationship with the girl that was dressed. So maybe he wanted to try to maybe give some kind of dignity. I'm not sure. Little one says Odinites are peaceful. Some white supremacists call themselves soldiers of Odin. There is no connection other than symbolism. Study the brown pouch on BG. Nope, haven't heard his name yet. Would have been pretty hard to do an elaborate sacrifice in that trail system. No leaves on the trees, fairly small area. Well, obviously it wasn't, Anna. That's what happened. It doesn't seem very hard. It sounds like they planned it out. So it was only Richard's. I believe Richard Allen. It was his task to get them down the hill, get them to the site. CJK says most want the truth. Some want their versions of the truth. The family did it. Meth gang. I know we have pagans who did it without any proof. to our knowledge of their truths. Exactly. So we got to deal with the information as it comes, right? Yep, Hiawatha is exactly right. All they have to prove is, as far as Alan goes, is that they kidnapped them. And we've also learned that they most likely don't have Richard Allen's DNA. And if they're going to accuse all these people and quote one guy saying he spit on one of the girls, why would why would his spit be on her? So if that's a true statement, I mean, these could very well be the other actors that Nicholas McLean was hoping they could get their hands on. So if they were investigating this behind the scenes, their job just got a lot harder. Tentacles, this would explain it. You know, we got this weird Anthony Shots connection, we got the Richard Allen, and then now we got this Odinism, maybe even mixed in with a little Freemasonry, right? Isn't that like something they practice as well? And even the prosecutor, I think, is a Freemason. So it's getting very interesting. Not sure what to make of it all, but one thing it does look like is that this was very planned, ritualistic, and I believe that they may have drained their blood for that sacrifice. Where is that blood? Who is in possession of that? Somebody has that. They're not getting rid of that. I believe that wherever it is, it's at a place of gathering. People know what it is. They're not going to collect that and get rid of it. They have it somewhere, in my opinion. What's up, Mandy? Good morning, Sylvia. Angela makes a good point. He has been charged with the murders. Why not speak out and save yourself? Yeah, he's not saying, "Hey, I'm innocent. I'm not guilty," because he knows he's guilty, but he can't say anything. From the beginning, I had the feeling that he was recruited for whatever reason, a tag along, possibly needed for whatever reason, but wasn't expecting the brutality that day. And I think that might explain why his 40 caliber bullet was there at the crime scene. Somebody took his weapon from him, cleared it completely of any bullets, and then handed it back to him. Most likely kept the magazine in their pocket. It's not a clip, it's a magazine. Marbles, what I got from what I read was defense saying there was culpable evidence not presented. So did they lie about all of that in the document to the court? And if so, are they going to be fired or jailed? What I think happened is you can get in big trouble for that. You know, you can get charges if you're trying to mislead the court. But the thing is, think about it. All the information presented in the memorandum would have to do with other actors. If there's others involved, all that information ties to them. There's no need to present it against Richard Allen because they don't even need to use that in the courtroom. They're not saying that he did that. They're not saying that he did the F looking symbol, the ruin. They're not saying that he did the staging, all the weird stuff with the sticks, the changing of the clothes. So they're not trying to mislead anybody because they're saying, hey, he's not responsible for that. We think other people are involved, but we're charging him with kidnapping the girls from that bridge and leading them to their death. And that's what's going to stick. And I think that's what Judge Gall is going to tell them. And I think that's happening right now. They might be at the courthouse right now doing the hearing now. I could be wrong. But I think that's what they're going to tell the defense. This has nothing to do with Richard Allen. And for some reason, they kept putting it on told Lesenby that he was saying it's a lone wolf, lone wolf. But from the very beginning, the prosecution was saying that they believe others are involved. And that's why Diener apparently, of course, before he mysteriously recused himself, signed those documents for the search warrant and to transfer Richard Allen and to keep it sealed, to keep those documents sealed. So, for all we know, investigators have had their eyes on all these names, right? They just don't have anything to tie together. But I think it's simple, right? The DNA. The dude said if my spit was on her and you guys find it, okay, well, did he do a swab? Do you have his DNA? Do you have this Elvis Fields guy's DNA? According to a news report, this Patrick Westphal character is a felon. So his DNA would be on file. So wouldn't they have a match? So I think the question is it just Brad Holder that is kind of the suspicious one, or do you guys buy into all of this information? And does the defense even need to prove this? But like I told you, I think this is a strategy. This is the groundwork for a plea agreement. And this is basically Richard Allen's way of snitching on those people without snitching. Trying to save his family because it doesn't look like he's going to get any help. Hopefully this will force the hand. And if these Odinites or whatever are responsible for these murders, I think they owe it to Richard Allen and the girls. Well, not to Richard Allen. Fuck him. Owe it to Abby and Libby to make a deal with Richard Allen to get these guys locked up. If they're responsible, if they had anything to do with this. But to me, that's what I feel like we're looking at here. It's a plea agreement in disguise. Prosecution didn't need to mention any of this information because it doesn't pertain to Richard Allen. They don't need to. It has nothing to do with what they're charging him with. He kidnapped them, brought them there, and for all we know, he went and did something else. And then they did all that weird shit. No reason to even talk about it pertaining to Richard Allen in court. And I think the defense knows that. And I think that's what Judge Gall is going to tell him, that they believe there's other people involved and this doesn't relate to their case. They're not even going to mention it during the trial. So by the defense mentioning it, he's letting everybody know, like, look, we got a conspiracy here. There's people being threatened. You're not going to get any answers until you negotiate. Okay. Now, if you really want to know if there's corruption involved, they will negotiate. If they don't negotiate, then you should be very suspicious of those people. But I have a feeling they will gladly negotiate to lead to other arrests. Yeah, it says here, another possible explanation as to how Abby had no visible blood on her body or clothes other than near the site of the wounds is that, and this is them trying to say a man, they go through a whole list, a man acting alone, trying to say that Richard Allen couldn't do it alone. And I agree with that. If this is what happened, alone had hanged Abby on a tree, stringing her up by her feet. This method consists with a pagan sacrificial rituals found on Brad Holder's Facebook page would allow the blood to drip. And that's why I believe that if this took place, they collected it. And remember, there was another person with the initials JP that I spoke to that was on those trails that day who made threats about 2 years ago to slit somebody's throat and to drink their blood. Whatever that means. But this will be our 5-minute warning. And this is the artwork they're referring to. So this was posted to Facebook about, I think, 4 days after the murders, the anniversary of the murders. So at this point, he most likely started the painting on the anniversary. So now, with the information that we know, this seems to mean a lot more and is much more important now. So we have this F symbol, and in the memorandum, the defense is saying this was one of the main signatures left at the crime scene. And it would have been left somewhere like right here. But it is strange that he has it in red paint. Exactly 1 year after the crimes. And in order to drain a body of all its blood, you would have to do something like this to allow the gravity. And both victims had wounds to their neck, which would make perfect sense why they would be attacked there and then not have the amount of blood that there should be at the crime scene. Yeah, so these people are extremely dangerous. And this is why I believe Nicholas McClellan was trying to be careful. They know what they have here. Now their job just got a whole lot harder. And I think it's going to be very important for the prosecution to make a deal. Make sure Richard Allen's family is safe and secure, and then go get these other people. So if you guys haven't, please hit the like button. Make sure you share this video. Consider becoming a member and hit the bell icon because we stay active. And members, it looks like we're going to be talking about the Delphi case come Wednesday. If there's anything else you want to go over, make sure you let me know. But it looks unanimous. Hiawatha says, reasonable doubt right there. Richard Allen will go to trial, in my opinion. I don't think so. I don't think we're looking at a defense. I think we're looking at a plea bargain request. I think they can hide it. I think they can try to hide it from the killers by doing it this way. And it also gives Richard Allen an out where he doesn't have to come out and say, hey, these are the guys. Julia Burns says, if drained, where would the blood be if not at the scene? In a container. Seems like they strung them up like a deer or like a butcher would an animal. And their wounds were to the throat. So if they were strung up, all they would need to do is put like a bucket or something underneath. I think they even mentioned that Abby was originally, or Libby was attacked near a tree. So she could have been upside down. Because they said there was a lot of blood in that area near a tree. No, I think they collected it. Anna says the Ron Logan affidavit theorized the victims had been killed at the scene because of the amount of blood on the ground. May not have sprayed and splattered, but apparently it was not collected by a freak. That's not what we're reading here. And I'm sure there was still plenty of blood at the scene, even if they did collect it. Yep, the Hangman's Tarot. Let me see if I can pull that up. Now, if you guys know anything about Charles Manson and the Sharon Tate case, that's exactly what they did to Sharon Tate. They posed her exactly like the Hangman tarot card, and I believe they collected her blood. Brad Holder painted that picture, Anna. He painted it and posted it to Facebook. Wait, let me see if I have that image. I might have taken the whole screenshot. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay. So here's the whole screenshot from his Facebook. Let me get rid of this border here that I have on. It's blocking some information there. There we go. Okay, look at the date. February 17th, 2018. It says, well, I started back. Acrylic, Hell Odin. February 7th, 17th, 2018. 1 year after the crime. Okay. So there's a possibility they were actually strung up this way. But let's focus on the fact that we know that there was an F-like symbol written in one of the victims' blood on a tree about 4 feet up. Now, I want you to pay very close attention to what's painted in red at the very bottom of this painting. Yep, exactly, Marbles. It does happen. Yeah, apparently he has an alibi. But we're going to find out. He'll definitely be in court. He will be called. Yeah, those Scully caps, Redfoot. But early on, they told us not to worry about the hat. We said, don't look at that hat. They're like, we kind of created that hat. So I wouldn't put too much in that hat. But yeah, I always thought that's why they thought, suspected him, because he looked like the bridge guy. Yeah, it does, Angela. All right, I'm going to catch up on the chat, guys, and then I got to get out of here. I was bringing up the tarot connection yesterday and got a lot of pushback. I saw it immediately after reading the CS description. Yep, it's the first thing that popped in my head was the tarot card and Sharon Tate. 100% shadow box. As soon as I heard the knee was bent, yeah, Freckled. We talked about that early on in the live stream, how they made the connection to the floor of fires. and how the motivation could have been racially motivated. It could have been a racially motivated crime, and they could have just used rituals as the method. Well, we're already going to do it. We might as well get something out of it, and that could explain why they said, "Hey, this is about power to you." I'm not exactly sure what the symbol means. Online, they have a few different meanings. Let me see. The one that I got off of one of his friends' Facebooks is this. But this doesn't look like the same symbol. This one, the lines are going up. There's another ruin where the lines are coming down. But this one says it's for power of expansion, primordial fire. So that doesn't look like the same symbol as this one. See, these are kind of coming down at an angle. Those are going upward. Freckled says, I have had people clock out for me all the time. Yep. And just because somebody says something, you got to prove it. You got to make sure he was there. I mean, they did that with Mike Patty. They went and looked at videos of him there. They're not going to go do that for the guy who's actually making paintings a year after with the same symbol and pretty much the same thing that happened. So according to the memorandum, Freckled, they targeted one of the girls because one of their mothers was, I don't know how they put it, associating with people outside their race. And if we're dealing with some racist, they called it a white nationalist. I don't know what that is. White nationalist group. Well, we know that the 4 girls in Florida were black. That could have been motivation for that crime. We know that Doug Carter, his name slipped my mind for a second. We know that Doug Carter, on his way to the press conference, stopped in Florida. That kind of makes sense now. So if they have these other people that they think are involved, that would make sense why he would stop in Florida. I know that that's another one of his cases, and a lot of people talk about him. But if this is true here, what we're hearing in this memorandum, it would make more sense why he would stop there on his way to Delphi, right? And he's the same man who used the word tentacles. A lot of tentacles, he said. And remember, Kagan Klein had a catfish account where he was a black man. So who knows? Maybe they were using this account to try to test people. It's catfish people and see if they would actually go for it. Hiawatha, and the attorney seen the Odin patches on the guards. Yeah, Odinism is a religion. It's nationwide. It's not a gang. There's just some gangs that tie to Odinism. Them videotaping his attorney visit is illegal in itself, let alone making him face the glass so they could read his lips. Yeah, well, they got to prove that. Remember, just because the defense attorney says all of this information doesn't make it true. We have to use discernment and try to focus in on the facts. We can speculate all we want, which is totally fine, as long as we identify it as such. But one thing we need to really focus on are the facts. Fact is, there was a symbol very similar to this We haven't seen it yet, so we don't know. We need them to draw it or something, show us an example. But it is very strange to see this on a painting in red, knowing that the girls could have been strung up and that that very symbol was put on a tree at their crime scene. But in no way does this say Richard Allen is innocent, not connected, or even that the whole Anthony Shots isn't connected. You know? To me, it means that the word tentacles means a lot more than it did before. Sees through. I don't know. I haven't seen that, but Carbon has been making some videos. He's collected some information over the years. If you guys haven't checked out Carbon, it's CAR space BUN. He's covering a lot right now of Brad Holder. He has a lot of his old stuff from his Facebook that it's not there anymore. And he has pictures of sticks and weird things on the ground, just like they're explained in this memorandum at the crime scene. So maybe this is something common that those folks do. We really need an expert to say, hey, look, a lot of people are doing that. You know, a lot of people take photos like this. They're not part of this murder. You just happen to have whoever committed this crime practicing the same fashion and in the same manner that these folks are. And the only real connection to the crime would be, you know, Brad Holder and his son. So this could be a very loose connection. And if all this information needs to be verified, but that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. Angela Van Oven, if it's race-related hate crime, which makes it federal, yeah, that would have took it out of their jurisdiction, maybe. Years ago, the rumor was that the letter K was carved into one of the victims. Yeah. See? Now we know that's not true. What it is somebody actually gets their hands on a good, solid piece of information. Like, hey, there was an F found on the tree. So the person that was told that information says to the next person, hey, there was an F carved into the tree. The next person says, hey, there was an F carved into the victim. Another person says, well, there was a K carved into the victim. I call that the human factor. You got to stay critical from the very second you receive the information. Dan Doolin knows that now. You got to be critical from the very get-go, buddy. Or else you end up with the Ricky Allen Whiteman. And that's kind of what we've been stuck with from the beginning of this case, right? A Ricky Allen Whiteman. Half bits and pieces of the information. Sees Through says law enforcement either had reason to abandon the Odinism angle or they belong to that group. That's not true. There's a third choice. Law enforcement didn't abandon it. They kept it secret because it's the bigger piece of the case. And it really has nothing to do with Richard Allen. If he's not tied to the gang and was just recruited, really, legally, I don't think they need to present any of that information. That's, I think, the very reason they charged him the way they did. All the information we have proves that it is Richard Allen on that bridge and he's the one that kidnapped them. I don't need to tell you about any of this other stuff because I don't plan to bring it up in court. Of course, it's going to come up regardless, but not from them. They had no intention of bringing this to court. They can't help it if the defense is choosing to bring it up, but I think that's what Gall is going to tell them. They had no reason to include that information. It has nothing to do with Richard Allen. And what you did right now is basically let anybody who else might be involved know that we have the upper hand and what we're looking for. But his obligation is to his client, and it sounds like he wants to make a deal for his client. And if not, make a deal, at least get some protection for his family before Richard Allen will talk. Yeah, and the writing in that legal document is questionable, and I didn't see any experts or any quotes from any professionals or anything like that. Yeah, he seems like a tall guy. Defense must be very confident because they could be disbarred for those bold statements against law enforcement failure to explore the Odin. Yeah, and they could still be exploring it. That's the part that we don't know. Remember, they tried to keep this sealed for a reason. And they told us from the beginning, we believe others are involved. We're trying to protect that information. But right now, the defense, they have a client that they have to protect. And it sounds like they need to get him a deal. They need to let the public know so that they can put pressure on law enforcement to make that deal. But I don't think this is an attempt, in my opinion, to suppress anything. This is a roundabout way of providing some of the fundamental goals that the defense has, and that's protection of Richard Allen's family, and then also it sounds like he's going to hand over these names, and that could also explain why Kathy Allen left Delphi. She's gone. Home is probably already sold. I'm not sure, and why she is going to all the court cases and why she didn't turn him in. They got to prove it first. But I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? It's hard to talk about Delphi and not talk about Flora. Simple, if they painted the F out of, wouldn't there be some sort of evidence? The tree, or cut the tree down so there wouldn't be any proof of that for the public to see after the fact. Yeah, and there was trees cut down. If you go out there, there's about 6 or 7 trees that have been cut down right at the crime scene. And there was also a deer camera found right somewhere right nearby with the SD card taken out of it. Well, Carrie Timmons is one of the mothers. If she was dating a black guy, I wonder if that's who they're referring to. But I don't think she was anywhere near Delphi at the time. Hmm. Oh, that's a good point, Moon Crystal. Yeah, and it looks like Betsy Blair is the source of the young-looking sketch, and she's the one that saw the man on the bridge. But we've also seen Richard Allen. Here, let me show you a picture of him 2 months before the murders. He looks completely different. And it's all about the lighting. Whoops. Okay, so this was December. When you put Richard Allen's face completely in the light, this is what he looks like. So standing out on that bridge, the sun shining directly down on his face, this is what you would be seeing. And we all know around 2 o'clock, that sun is beaming down. So if she's the witness that gets the best look of him with the best lighting, this is what she's going to see. And this looks like a very young person. Now I'll show you another photo from that same day, and he looks like a completely different person. Okay, same day. All he did was take off his jacket. December 2016. That's the same man right there. Same day, same everything. That's a good point, Freckle. I'm telling you, the Odinism is very popular down there. It's a religion. Like people, I don't think you should be bashing the whole group. I don't think they're all sacrificing people or all violent. And I don't think they're all in gangs. But there are gangs that do practice Odinism and maybe doing, these types of sacrificial killings. So that's the same man, same day, different lighting. Yep. That's what I said the other day. This is going to become a real circus. People are going to need to be very patient, be very critical. Don't let your emotions drag you around. Just stay focused. Oh, Ron Logan's not involved. Ron Logan is involved. Keegan Klein's involved. No, he's not involved. I told you it was this. I knew it was Brad Holder. It could be all of the above, guys. Or none of the above. But if you're going to be convinced and start going to bat for certain things, like, oh, you need to let Richard Allen go, blah, 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 blah. Do you really see evidence of that? Like, use your brain. I'm not very smart. I'm not the smartest person, but I'm smart enough to know that. I'm not smart by any means. I don't claim to be, and I don't act like I'm smart. But I think discernment is a very important thing. Brick with Eyes, what's up? Richard Allen probably did it to throw the investigation off the trail. He is of the perfect age to remember the satanic panic. Yep. Well, we talked about that yesterday, why they stage crime scenes. They want to shock, they want to distance themselves, or it's a ritual. What is up, Brad? Good to see you. We're about to get out of here in 1 minute. Yep, the Stevenson case in Kentucky. Yeah, we went over that early on, Angela. About the blood in the car, too. Good morning, Frederica. Jerry, good to see you. Well, I don't think I'm going to catch up on the chat, guys. But if you could hit the like button on the way out, consider becoming a member. Replay crew, drop all the information you want in the comments, and I'll check back with you. Let me know what you think about today's live stream and what's been going on with the Delphi case. My head is hurting. My head hurts. But I will remain patient. As a shit sandwich. Hey, Howard, good to see you, buddy.
I was hoping you would call in the other day. Um, if you want to text to that number, go ahead. And I've been reading your text messages. I'm not good at getting back to people if I don't have anything really important to say. But yeah, if you want to give me some of those details, I'll take a look. Shoot me an email, or not. You can email me, or you can text to that number. I've been getting your text messages. Should this have come out before the trial and not guilty plea if he wanted to make a deal? Not if he's afraid he's going to get his family killed. Because he didn't come out and say, I'm innocent, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. Because you can say you're innocent, right? Without snitching on somebody else. Like, if you're innocent, why would you even know who did it? Right? So it's just me. I'm innocent. I know nothing. But he didn't say any of that. He was like, almost as if he wanted to talk, but he knew that he couldn't. And I could totally see him getting really paranoid if he knew the real killers and why they did it, and what happened at that crime scene with the ruins and the symbols and all that kind of stuff. If he saw the correctional officers with Odinism patches, he could have become extremely paranoid, especially if he's already sick. Yeah, when I started looking into it, Anna, I noticed that it is everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Yep, I'd say that is an old trick. Interweave the truth with lies, give the lies some validity, or even just present them. Law enforcement may not know any of this information. This is kind of his way of snitching. But he still has to validate the information. What's up, Candace? There is a footnote at the bottom of the document that says that Richard Allen didn't actually say that he was being threatened, but that this is a scenario that could possibly happen. Yeah, he was acting paranoid. It was like, can't remember how they explained it. Thank you, Kim Possible. So we got some sponsors for today. We got Kim, we got Shay, we got Cindy, and we got Jerry in the house flexing his 7th month membership. Thank you. What's going on, Jerry? You been keeping up with all this new information? My head hurts. I was going through the documents again this morning, and I was just like, what is all of this? Because honestly, I don't see a defense team putting those names out there unless they had a witness. And I think that's what they're going to have. Is Richard Allen will be a witness. He'll face his crimes. Maybe, I'm not sure how that'll work out for the kidnapping. But I believe he will be a witness. Julia says, I believe they knew the girls would be there. I just don't know how. I think they lured them. I think they prepped the crime scene and lured the girls. Premeditated. What the fuck is the motive? Could be racially, and then using that as an excuse to sacrifice victims. And if Flora is connected, which we don't know, this is all information coming from the memorandum. But if it is connected, it would make total sense, the motivation being racially motivated. And if it is connected, whoever started that fire in Flora, this would be the escalation of that, right? You have the gateway crime, and then you move on to something much more brutal. But the only thing I don't understand is these people, their DNA should be on file. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. Hey, Chopper. Yep, and that's the way I see it, Chopper. It's a good way to get the others involved, their names out there. put pressure on law enforcement. Move, you guys need to act. Because if Richard Allen can't tell the whole story, maybe the whole story will never be told. He'll just get convicted, locked away, and his family will be safe, but the story will forever remain hidden. So this might be, by putting all the cards on the table, might be a good way to force that hand. Richard Allen sounds like he was so quiet. That's what his friends tell me. I'm not sure he even had, he had friends, but they say that he is the quietest person. 2 people told me that, and they don't even talk to each other. The most quiet person that they've ever known. 2 people quoted that. I asked him, when looking back, at Richard Allen, is there any things that come to mind? Well, he was the quietest person I ever knew, was the response I got. Hey, Jim Cook, what's up? This changes nothing. It's bullshit put on by defense. Don't be distracted. Yeah, do not be distracted, but we do have to take the new facts. We have to look at those. The crime scene, the signatures, things like that. But what they call an F symbol or a ruin, we haven't seen it. For all we know, it could be an F for flora. Who knows? Maybe it's not an F. Maybe it's not a ruin. JW, hello. Defense is just mucking the water. That's what it appears to be, but I think this is a way of divulging some information without putting Richard Allen's family at risk, and kind of letting the prosecution know that they're ready to play ball, and the ball is in their court. They basically put out a list of Richard Allen's fears and his needs and wants. That's what I see here. I don't see a suppression request. I see them letting the prosecution know what the client needs, and they need to do it somewhat clandestine. Hey, return the diamonds, flexing that 16-month. Trust God, willing that those responsible will be brought to justice. Evil will not prevail. Yeah, but we can't just sit back and hope for that. People need to take actions. There has to be some kind of movement. It'll be a Richard Allen as guilty as... Yeah, he's definitely guilty. But there's a lot that we can't ignore. Why wasn't his DNA at the crime scene? Because he wasn't the one that committed the actual physical act. He is the kidnapper on the bridge. I don't think it does create reasonable doubt, Freckle. Why would a large group do that in the middle of a weekday and broad daylight? Seems like the type of thing a group would want time and privacy. Well, in a ritual, you got to think the date, 2/13. The time of death was probably around 3. That's another thing. Brad Holder's Snapchat was like Holder213 or something like that. So numerology, bastardization of these different religious beliefs and rituals. My question is, if it was all pre-planned and the location picked out, why not park at the cemetery so it's easier to get away? Maybe they did park at the cemetery. For all we know, that's where Richard Allen came from. If it's his job to get them from the bridge underneath, that's his job, right? He can't walk out of the cemetery, and he probably doesn't want to park at the Mears lot because that's where they're going to park. Everybody's going to see his car. So go park at the CPS building, hide your plates, beat them to the bridge, and then when they get there, you get behind them and force them down. That's all you got to do. So they could have already been parked at the cemetery. That could have been where Richard Allen was coming from when he parked at the CPS building. Because we know that morning the girls wanted to get to the high bridge. They were trying their best. They were up all night, up early. And for all we know, this is who they were communicating with the night before. They were being catfished and lured. Mandy Ray, didn't she marry a man with an Asian background? Asian can be hated just as much as dark shades. Well, Asian is kind of a dark shade. Um, yeah, that's true. Her son or her daughter. What was he, Laotian? Can't remember. Yeah, so maybe he was under pressure about that. Like, you got to do this, type of thing. Yeah, what's funny is I messaged Brad Holder like 2 years ago. I went and checked my messenger. It's still there. He hasn't read it. It was right after he made that Bigfoot video. Yeah, it has no place, Freckled, but you can't stop people from creating their own weird religious beliefs, Bastardization is such a good word because a lot of times that's what happens. Little bits and pieces of all these other religions, a lot of confusion. It doesn't, Mike. And that's kind of my point. That's why you got to be careful with a lot of these people out here. Like, I told you so. I told you Richard Allen was innocent or this and that. Because to me, it changes nothing. They're not looking at the information critically, and they're not taking into consideration the human element that is behind the motivation of that document to begin with. If they're going to hope it's chess. If they can't accomplish their main goal, there's always a plan B that they can hopefully salvage something from it. I think they may have left in one vehicle and they didn't go towards the Hoosier Harvest store. It's as simple as that. Nobody really reported being at the cemetery or seeing what was going on at the cemetery. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping too, Jim. I'm hoping these people who practice Odinism, maybe from a young age and take it seriously, you know, and they look at it as more of an honorable thing. Maybe they will stand up and maybe they'll sacrifice these people if they know anything about it. But if they drain the blood from those victims, that blood is somewhere. Somebody has that blood. They're not getting rid of it. They need to find that. If that's what happened, there's no way they're getting rid of that. So wherever they have their little rituals, wherever they have their gatherings, that's the first place I would search if I was an investigator. Oh, Brad Heath? No, I don't think Brad Heath had anything to do with this. Nothing to indicate anything like that. Like I said, layers. You know, you don't want to be a lazy sleuth. Rumor, speculation, public info, you got to get past those layers. Just because he came forward doesn't mean he's involved. Yeah, Judge Gall ain't playing that. And I don't think the defense is playing it. I don't think they're trying to get the search warrant thrown out. I don't think that's their goal. This is a veiled snitch. This is snitching in disguise. Good point. Moon Crystal read these documents, and she's making some really good comments in the chat here. Also, it concerns me that the car Betsy Blair actually saw, she described as a 1965 Comet. Yeah, I found that very interesting. And why were they going? Why were they even near the CPS building? And we now know that you could just walk, at that time, you could walk right into the CPS building. So it's not like it was a secured facility. So they could have been coming and going from that building. Redfoot says, at Brad Shaves with Music is Brad Holder's YouTube channel. Well, we're almost at the 2-hour mark, guys. We're going to hang out a little bit longer. I'm going to try to get through this chat. Yeah, and they say that they have Saska. Good point. Pat Brown also pointed out the more individuals involved, the more evidence likely to be left behind. Well, they have hair and they have fibers and they have DNA. That Leggett knew what info? The info that they were trying to keep out of the public's hands. If the information that the defense is putting out there right now in this memorandum, if it has nothing to do with Richard Allen, that doesn't make him innocent. They could be trying to keep that information quiet. Let's say we have 2 or 3 other people involved. As of yesterday, those people are much more prepared to get away with it than they were prior to that. But at the same time, they're much more closer to being put behind bars also. Because now their names are out there, their affiliations are out there. And I'm sure the defense has some kind of state funds where they have their own private investigators looking into these matters. But honestly, alibis and some DNA swabs would clear up all of that, right? Yeah, Jerry, I think they know that he's guilty, but that he played a much smaller role and that he does have some cards of his own to play. If they can turn him into a witness, he can get a deal. Mike says, and now the prosecution needs to respond to this fairy tale. I think there's going to be a little bit of truth to everything we've heard, guys. A little bit of truth. I don't know. I think the judge is going to see it for what it is. What's up, Jessica? Charlotte. Thank you, Redfoot. I guarantee it's a stunt, Freckled. You have to be very strategic. It's not checkers here. They have to figure out the best thing for their client. And I think this would be the best thing. If he's literally afraid that somebody's going to kill his family, they need to go ahead and make him feel comfortable. If he wants to start talking, what better way to snitch without having him go into a detective's office and spill the beans? If he did that, he may think his family is in danger. Because he's not fighting about anything. He just seems stuck. He's like in purgatory. Like, I can't confess and I can't, there's nothing I can do. But I think if they could prove that his family was protected, then they can get this deal done. That's what this is, in my opinion. It is the groundwork for a plea agreement. And the defense did it in the way they did so that they can shock and awe. Shock and awe and feed the bloodlust. In his keister. Hey, Red Charm. What's up, Nedra? I have a feeling there's so many liars in this case. I think Richard Allen is bridge guy. Me too. I think that. I'm not sure. I wonder if the FBI has interviewed all these people. I hope they have. I hope they're going to get back involved. They always said they were more bad actors involved. True Crime says, so I wonder why there's no mention of the Kleins. Always thought they were involved somehow. Yeah, they still could be. Tentacles. For all we know, they played a part in the luring or targeting of their victims. SOS from San Francisco. Did Richard Allen and his immediate family belong to a local church? I have heard nothing about their religious affiliations. I don't know about Richard Allen, but Kathy and her brother were very religious. I don't know where they went to church. I think he was, when he passed away, they had the ceremony in Peru, I believe. Yeah. So I think if they did put him in protective custody, he might talk. But then again, he might not know anything. And this could just all be to muddy the waters. But how do you explain the symbols left at the crime scene? Did he leave those there himself to mislead investigators and to give himself an out when the time comes? I have wondered if Richard Allen was talked into directing the girls down the hill, thinking it was part of a joke, or thinking it wouldn't be that serious. Maybe even he didn't mind if they were hurt, but he didn't think that they were gonna kill him and do all that crazy stuff that they did at the crime scene. Maybe he was just completely shocked by it all. Yeah, in the United States, you're free to practice your religion, even if that's Satanism. You have your freedom to choose. Lala says, I saw an ex-convict on a show last night who said the guards at the prison Richard Allen is in do what they want. Well, of course he's going to say that. And they do what they want. They're not prisoners. It's kind of the point. I just can't believe that law enforcement didn't run down this Odinism lead. You don't know that, Goat Dog. Maybe they did. Remember, they said they believe others are involved. This is the defense, I think, trying to force that hand. Their focus is Richard Allen, not the case. They have a client. Whatever's best for him is what they're going to do. What's up with the changing of clothes? To me, that tells me somebody had a personal relationship. Like they didn't want to shame, or they want to minimize the shame of this victim. I believe it does, Nedra. Yeah, they did claim that. But Richard Allen had 6 years to get rid of all that information. Not to mention, he did get rid of his Facebook, I believe, in 2018. So we'll never know. Jim says, yep, hell yeah, we do. Hey, Digi, that horn that the dude blew during the Heath interview, is that Nordic or, oh, no, it's Jewish. The shofar? I think Odinites would be more likely to drink out of a horn than blow on it. I just feel like if she saw someone unlike Richard Allen and described a car unlike Richard Allen, her account shouldn't be included in the PCA about Richard Allen. But it never says that she saw Richard Allen. So the same way that the defense can make veiled or disguise certain things, the prosecution can do the very same thing in the PCA. Like, yeah, maybe we're not talking about Richard Allen here, but we know this is Richard Allen. But what about these other people? Maybe they want us to ask those questions, or they want the court to ask those questions when the time comes. Thanks, Frank. Okay, let's go to the last one here. Sorry, guys. Good to see you, Remy Stuff. Remy says, how would a group of men in the woods go unseen that day? Simple. They drove in one vehicle, parked, and all got out and walked into the woods, and nobody was there to see them do it. It's not like they all parked in 4 different vehicles and were honking the horns and flagging people down. And for all we know, they got there extremely early. They could have been dropped off. For all we know, Richard Allen dropped them off. Yeah, Kay. I was thinking about that this morning as well. Kay says, I remember way back, and she's talking about the Erskine text. During the funeral that someone leaked info seems consistent with the cause of death, something along the lines that they had been covered. Yeah, they said it appeared that somebody tried to cover Libby, but really she wasn't covered. There was a bunch of signatures on her. But we don't know. Maybe she was just being covered. Maybe the F sign is just somebody putting their hand there. Maybe it's being misinterpreted. All right, guys, that's all the time I have. Hey, whistleblower, welcome. Yeah, his part was to get them down underneath. Could have been the Anthony Shots part to lure the girls, and it would be the three, maybe 2 or 3 men who actually conducted the physical act. Especially if these guys are meeting up in groups or Charlotte says a person alone in such a short time does not have the time to do all of this. The crime or staging took much longer. I mean, an hour and 30 minutes. I think it's possible. It just doesn't. But why? Why? Why spend all that time by yourself doing all these things when you're done? You've already committed the crime. It's time to get out of there. The only real reason to spend all that time is because you're doing a ritual. You're enjoying your time. You're having a party. Kind of like the Stevenson case. They stayed with those bodies for a day. They even left and came back. All right, guys. If you could hit that like button on the way out, I'd appreciate it. Replay crew, please leave a comment. I'll make sure to get back to you and answer any of your questions. And also, make sure you hit that bell icon. We are going to stay busy with this new information, and we'll be going over other cases as well as the Delphi case. A tan coat. He was muddy. Well, that's what the defense says. And it's good that we get to hear both sides, right? But now you have to make the decision for yourself. Don't let anybody tell you what you're seeing and what the evidence is saying to you. Yeah, Charlotte. For him to cover her that way, he may have had some kind of personal relationship. I can't keep looking at her. I need to put clothes on, affecting him in a personal way. Lesbians acting, if they were mad at the mother, why didn't they target the mother, not the kids? Well, it's because they're cowards. They don't want any resistance. And they don't really hate the mother. This is an excuse to get these girls out there and hurt them. To do the ritual. Everything else is just is the lie they tell themselves. They're just psychopaths. And that's how they operate. They just lie to themselves, allow it, knowing it's a lie, allowing themselves to be convinced, and then they can go through with it. Yep, small group of lunatics. What's up, Yankee? It's obvious they wanted the crime scene to look strange. Shock value, maybe? Yeah, Ray. Does explain the couple in Kentucky. It's the Stevenson case. Yep, the religious ritual aspect of it all. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Go some kind of personal relationship. Is any of this on the? Yeah, it's all over the news. All of it is on the news. They're just not sharing the names, things like that. Yeah, it could have been threatened. I'm telling you, everything that we know, there could be a small piece of truth to it. But you guys, that's all the time I have for today. I really appreciate you guys hanging out, taking the time to participate in the chat. But please do me that favor and hit the like button on the way out, share, hit the bell icon, all that good stuff. I appreciate all you guys. Yeah, definitely a bizarro case for sure. It never stops with this case. It never stops. They need to find justice. And if this is, the final road to that, good. Well, there's an interview with him and Ruckus. He may address that, what he thinks about it. He said they didn't find a connection. But the end of that sentence could be, we didn't find a connection that I can share with you. They always end that sentence before it's finished. You got it. All right. Thank you, guys. Last one, Outside of the Grid. I tell you what is weird for me is the narrative on the song the girls listen to on the way there, Heathens by 21 Pilots. Listen to that and then read this 136 page document. I don't know. I wouldn't look too much into that. I know the Heathens, but that was a very popular song at that time. I think that's a coincidence. Yeah, Sask, I have a feeling it may have been filmed as well. I think there may have been a money motivator as well somewhere in there. All right, that's all my time, guys. Sorry, I got to get it. I wish I could hang out a little bit longer. If I find some time, we'll get together later on today. Yeah, Jim says I'm curious as to know more about the Doolin and their alleged screw up. Yeah, was he the hidden hand that was making the investigation difficult, hiding information? Or really all he needed to do was make that one move. But I think the better question is, why did they come across that tip again? What made them look for that tip? And how'd they find it if it was misfiled? All right, guys, I'm out of here. Take care. I will see you again very soon. Have a great day. Take care of yourself.